Farmer finds a hidden house among the treetops. What's inside changes everything. Marcus Bennett walked through the rural property as he had every morning for 20 years, checking the fences and observing the cattle. At 42, his solitary routine had become a silent prison ever since his wife Elizabeth left him 5 years ago, taking with her all the family dreams they had once shared. It was during this routine walk that something unusual caught his attention among the treetops of the tallest trees in the native forest surrounding his property. There, hidden by dense vegetation and the intertwined branches of a towering 100-year-old fig tree, was a small wooden structure he had never noticed before. The structure looked old but well maintained, as if someone had cared for it over the years. Marcus stopped abruptly, taking his straw hat off his head and running his hand through his dark hair, which was beginning to grey at the temples. His brown eyes narrowed, trying to see better through the foliage. How was it possible that this building had been there all this time without him noticing? He knew every inch of that land, having inherited the ranch from his grandfather and grown up exploring every corner. Marcus's heart raced with a mix of curiosity and apprehension. The house was situated at a considerable height, firmly supported among the thick branches of the tree, accessible only by a wooden ladder that hung from the far side of the trunk. The structure was small but well built, with wooden windows and a small moss-covered roof that camouflaged it perfectly with the surrounding nature. Marcus looked around, as if expecting to find someone who could explain this discovery. But he was alone, as always. The sound of little birds and the whisper of the wind in the leaves were his only companions on that Saturday morning. He took a deep breath, smelling the familiar scent of damp earth mixed with the aroma of wildflowers growing throughout the woods. He carefully approached the tree, his leather boot making noise among the dry leaves on the ground. The wooden ladder seemed solid despite its age, and there were signs that someone had used it recently. The steps were clean, without the buildup of leaves and debris one would expect from a structure abandoned for years. Marcus tested the first step carefully, applying his weight gradually. The wood groaned slightly but held firm. He climbed slowly, step by step, his breathing growing heavier, not from physical effort, but from the tension of not knowing what he would find up there. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. Upon reaching the wooden platform that served as the base for the small house, Marcus was surprised by the state of preservation of everything. The planks were well cared for. Some even seemed to have been replaced recently. There was a small window with floral patterned fabric curtains that swayed gently in the breeze, and the main door was slightly ajar. Marcus hesitated for a moment at the door. This intrusion felt wrong, but curiosity was stronger than any scruple. Carefully he pushed the door open and looked inside. What he saw left him completely breathless. The interior of the little house was cozy and clearly inhabited. There was a small table with 2 chairs, a narrow bed with a patchwork quilt, shelves with books, and on the walls children's drawings taped up. But what caught his attention most were the photographs scattered on the small table beside the bed. With trembling hands, Marcus picked up the first photo. It was a picture of him younger, hugging a brunette woman he recognized immediately, Sarah Mitchell, his high school girlfriend. They had dated for 3 years as teenagers, but the relationship ended when she moved to the capital to study nursing. The second photo made him stagger backward. It was Sarah, more mature, holding a small child in her arms, a girl of maybe 4 years old, with curly brown hair and eyes that were unmistakably identical to his. The child's face was a feminine, childish version of his own. Marcus sat down heavily in the chair, the photo trembling in his hands. His legs seemed to have no strength to support him. How was this possible? When was the last time he had seen Sarah? It had been over 15 years ago, shortly before he married Elizabeth. He had run into Sarah casually at a fair in Austin, and they had talked briefly about the past. He continued examining the other photos scattered across the table. There were several of the same girl at different ages, playing on a playground, blowing out birthday candles, dressed for a school harvest festival. In all of them, the resemblance to Marcus was undeniable. His hands automatically searched for more evidence. In a small drawer of the table, he found documents carefully organized in a plastic folder. The first document he pulled out made his world collapse. a birth certificate in the name of Emily Mitchell Bennett, born March 15, 2010. In the father's name field was clearly written Marcus Bennett. Marcus had to read the document 3 times for the information to fully register in his brain. He had a daughter, a 14-year-old daughter he never knew existed. The dates matched perfectly with his last encounter with Sarah, when they were both single and shared a night of nostalgia that ended up becoming a final farewell. But why had Sarah never told him? Why had she hidden Emily's existence all these years? And, more importantly, where were they now? The house was clearly lived in but seemed to have been empty for a few weeks. Marcus continued searching for clues among the belongings. He found children's clothes carefully folded in a small wooden wardrobe, toys organized in a wicker basket, and school books with Emily's name written on the first page. There were also notebooks with essays and drawings that showed the development of an intelligent and sensitive child. One of the essays caught his special attention. The title was My Family, and it had been written in the careful handwriting of a child of about 8. Emily wrote about living with her mother in a special house high up in a tree, about the birds that sang in the morning, and about how she liked to draw the view from the window. But what touched Marcus most was the end of the essay. My mom says my father is a good man who takes care of the land and the animals, but he can't visit us yet. I hope to meet him one day. Tears began to stream down Marcus's bearded face without him even noticing. How had he missed so many years of his daughter's life? How had Sarah managed to raise a child alone, living in a treehouse on his own property, without him ever knowing? Marcus stood up and went to the window, observing the view that Emily had drawn so many times. From up there, he could perfectly see his main house, the corrals, the vegetable garden that Elizabeth had planted, and that he had struggled to maintain since she left. Emily had grown up watching his daily routine without him ever suspecting. He turned back to the table and continued examining the documents. He found a sealed envelope with his name written in Sarah's handwriting. With trembling fingers, he opened the envelope and pulled out a letter several pages long. My dear Marcus, the letter began. If you are reading this, it means you have finally found our secret house. I always knew that one day you would find out, because I know your curiosity and the way you explore every corner of your land. Marcus had to stop reading and take a deep breath before continuing. Sarah's voice seemed to echo in his mind as he read her words. When I discovered I was pregnant, you were already engaged to Elizabeth. I saw the announcement in the local paper and knew it would be too late to tell you about the baby. I didn't want to destroy your chance at happiness, especially because you always told me you wanted to build a family with someone you truly loved. The guilt hit Marcus like a punch to the stomach. He remembered that time perfectly. He had gotten engaged to Elizabeth more from family pressure than from true love. Elizabeth came from a family of prosperous ranchers, and everyone thought it would be a perfect marriage to unite the properties. I decided to raise Emily alone, the letter continued, but I didn't want to take her completely away from you. That's why we built our house here, where she could grow up knowing, at least from a distance, the father who couldn't be present. Emily always knew who you were. I pointed you out to her thousands of times working on the ranch, and she grew up admiring the strong, hard-working man who is her father. Marcus needed to sit down again. The revelation that Emily had always known of his existence while he remained ignorant was devastating and comforting at the same time. I know you must be wondering why I never told you the truth. The answer is simple. Because I love you too much to have disrupted your life. You deserve to have the family you always dreamed of, even if it wasn't with us. Emily and I were happy here, watching you from afar and knowing you were well. Marcus's tears now fell freely onto the paper. Sarah had sacrificed her own happiness and Emily's chance to have a present father so as not to interfere in his life. The generosity and love contained in that gesture were immense and painful. But now things have changed, the letter continued. Elizabeth has been gone for some time and you are alone again. Emily is growing up and asking questions about the father she never knew up close. That's why I made a difficult decision. We are leaving the treehouse. Panic instantly washed over Marcus. They were leaving. When? To where? When you find this letter, we will already be in New York, where I got a job at a hospital. Emily will start at a new school, and perhaps it's better this way. She needs to have her own experiences, away from secrets and half-truths. Marcus stood up abruptly, knocking over the chair. They had already left. How long ago? He looked around desperately, searching for clues about when the house had been abandoned. By the amount of dust on some objects, and the fact there was no perishable food, he estimated they had left at least 2 weeks ago. He continued reading the letter with growing desperation. I don't know if you'll ever want to meet Emily. She is an incredible girl, Marcus. Intelligent, sensitive, courageous. She inherited your determination and your kindness. If one day you want to find her, I left an address on the back of this page. But please, only look for us if it's to stay for real. Emily has already suffered enough from the absence of her father. With desperate hands, Marcus turned the page. There was the address. 247 Flower Street, Apartment 15, Greenwich Village, New York. There was also a phone number. Marcus put the letter in his shirt pocket and looked around the little house one last time. Every object there told the story of a childhood he had missed, of precious moments that could never be recovered. But perhaps there was still time for the future. He quickly climbed down from the tree, almost slipping on some steps in his haste. He ran to the main house with an urgency he hadn't felt in years. He needed to make a decision that would change his life forever. Inside the house, Marcus went straight to the telephone. He dialed the number Sarah had left with trembling fingers. The phone rang several times before a woman's voice answered. Hello? Marcus immediately recognized Sarah's voice, more mature, but still as melodious as he remembered. Sarah? It's me, Marcus. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. Marcus, how did you find the house? I did. I read your letter. Sarah, why did you never tell me about Emily? The silence stretched even longer, and Marcus could hear Sarah's heavy breathing. Because you were building your own life, Marcus. You had a right to happiness. But Emily was my daughter too. I had the right to know, to be part of her life. And I had the right to protect my daughter from being rejected by her own father, Sarah replied, with a firmness Marcus hadn't expected. The answer left him speechless. Was Sarah right to assume he might have rejected the pregnancy back then? Looking back, Marcus wasn't sure what his reaction would have been in his early 20s, about to marry someone else. Sarah, I want to meet Emily. I want to be part of her life. Marcus, it's not that simple. You can't just appear in the life of a 14-year-old girl and say, "Hi, I'm your father." She has an established life here, new friends, a new school. But she always knew who I was, didn't she? You wrote in the letter that she always knew. Knowing is different from knowing, Marcus. Emily knows you exist, but she's never had a real father. I don't know if she's ready for that now. Marcus felt his determination grow. He couldn't lose Emily again, not when he had finally discovered her existence. Sarah, please, let me try. Let me come to New York and meet her. It doesn't have to be as a father. It can just be as a family friend. Marcus, please, Sarah. I missed 14 years of my daughter's life. I don't want to miss the rest. The silence on the other end of the line stretched on for so long that Marcus began to think the call had dropped. Sarah? Are you still there? I'm here, she answered, her voice choked. It's just... Marcus, there are some things you need to know before you meet Emily. Marcus's heart raced. What things? Emily is not an easy child. She's questioning, independent, sometimes rebellious, and she has some emotional difficulties related to her father's absence. What kind of difficulties? She has anxiety attacks when she feels abandoned. Any situation she interprets as rejection can trigger episodes. That's why we decided to leave the treehouse. The questions about you were becoming obsessive. Marcus felt the weight of guilt crush his shoulders. His absence had caused emotional problems for his daughter. Sarah, I take responsibility for that. Let me help. Let me be present in her life now. Marcus, do you understand what I'm saying? If you come into Emily's life and then give up, if you can't handle her issues, it could be devastating. She's already been abandoned by her father once, even if unknowingly. I can't let that happen again. The determination in Sarah's voice was ironclad, but Marcus could tell she was conflicted too. "Sarah, I won't give up. I know I made mistakes in the past. I know I could have fought harder to find out the truth. But now I know I have a daughter, and that changes everything. My life will never be the same." "Marcus, you don't understand. Emily isn't just a daughter you lost. She's a fully formed person, with her own opinions, her own traumas. She might reject you. Are you prepared for that?" The question hit Marcus like a bolt of lightning. He had spent the last few hours imagining an emotional reunion, perhaps difficult, but one that would end with a hug and a new family. He hadn't considered the possibility that Emily might not want to meet him. "I don't know if I'm ready," Marcus admitted honestly, "but I know I need to try. Sarah, if our daughter has emotional problems related to my absence, perhaps my presence could help heal them." "Or make everything worse," Sarah retorted. "Or make everything worse," Marcus agreed. "But what if it makes things better? What if it's exactly what she needs? Can you deny her the chance to meet her father?" Sarah sighed deeply. "Marcus, I need to talk to Emily first. Explain that you found our home, that you want to meet her. I need to let her decide." "All right. When will you talk to her?" "I don't know. I need to find the right moment, the right way to explain." "Sarah, can I ask a question?" "Go ahead. Do you still blame me for not finding out sooner, for not fighting to know the truth?" There was a long pause before Sarah answered. "Marcus, I blamed you for many years, especially in the early years, when Emily was little and I was alone taking care of her, working 2 jobs. But over time I understood that you truly didn't know, and that I made the decision not to tell." "Why did you make that decision, Sarah? Be honest with me." "Because I was afraid," she admitted. "Afraid you'd reject the pregnancy, afraid of destroying your marriage, afraid you'd want to take Emily from me. But mostly, I was afraid of not being enough." "Enough how?" "Enough to compete with Elizabeth, with the life you were building. I was a newly graduated nurse, with no money, no family to support me. Elizabeth came from a wealthy family. She was educated, sophisticated. I thought you'd choose her even knowing about the pregnancy." Sarah's painful honesty touched Marcus deeply. He began to understand the insecurities that led her to hide the pregnancy. "Sarah, you were wrong about one thing." "About what?" "You were more than enough. You always were. And from what I read in the letter and saw in the house, you've been an amazing mother to Emily." Marcus could hear Sarah crying on the other end of the line. "Marcus, don't make this harder than it already is." "I'm not trying to make it hard, I'm just being honest. Sarah, can I ask something? Are you married? Do you have other children?" "I'm not married. I tried a few relationships, but they never worked out. Emily has always been my priority." "And now? How is she handling the move to New York?" "She's having a hard time. New city, new school, a small apartment after growing up in a treehouse surrounded by nature. She's been asking a lot about why we had to move." "What have you told her?" "That it was a better job opportunity, but Emily is smart. She knows there's more to the story." Marcus had an idea. "Sarah, what if I came to New York? Not to meet Emily immediately, but to be nearby in case she wants to meet me." "Marcus, you can't just leave your ranch and come to New York." "Why not? I have an excellent foreman who can handle everything for a few weeks." "Sarah, I'm serious. I can rent an apartment nearby, be available if Emily wants to meet me." "And if she doesn't?" "Then I'll return to the ranch knowing I tried." Sarah was silent for so long that Marcus began to worry. "Sarah, I'm thinking. Marcus, this is crazy. You barely know me anymore. You barely know Emily. How can you make such a drastic decision?" "Because she's my daughter," Marcus replied simply. "Because I've missed 14 years and I don't want to miss another day." "Marcus, what if Emily meets you and doesn't like you? What if you two don't get along? Then at least I'll know I tried." "Sarah, can you at least tell her that I know she exists now?" "I can. But Marcus, you need to be prepared for any reaction from her." "I'm prepared." "No, you're not. No one is prepared to meet a teenage child for the first time. But I'll talk to her tonight." "Thank you, Sarah. Really." Marcus, one last thing. If you come to New York and Emily agrees to meet you, you have to promise me something. Anything. Promise you won't disappear from her life again. Promise that if you enter her life now, you'll stay through thick and thin. I promise. I hope so, Marcus. I hope so. The call ended, and Marcus held the dead phone for several minutes. His life had completely changed in a matter of hours. In the morning, he was a lonely, middle-aged rancher. Now he was the father of a teenager he didn't even know. Marcus spent the rest of the day tidying the house, organizing the ranch business, and talking to his foreman, Mr. George, about taking on extra responsibilities for a few weeks. He didn't tell him about Emily yet. It was too soon and too complicated to explain. That night, Marcus could barely sleep. He kept imagining what Emily would be like, how she would react to knowing he wanted to meet her, whether she would look like him or like Sarah. At 3 in the morning, he gave up trying to sleep and went to the kitchen to make coffee. He was sitting on the porch watching the dawn when the phone rang. It was too early for calls, and Marcus's heart raced. He ran to answer it. Hello? Marcus, it's me, Sarah. Sarah, what time is it? Did something happen? It's 6 in the morning. Marcus, I talked to Emily last night. Marcus held his breath. And? She cried. A lot. First from anger, then from confusion, then from anticipation, I think. Does she want to meet me? She wants to ask questions first, a lot of questions. Marcus, do you have time for a long call? I have a lifetime. I'll put Emily on the phone, but Marcus, take it easy. She's scared and confused. Marcus heard the sound of the phone being passed, and then a young voice, a bit hoarse from sleep or crying, spoke on the other end. Hello? Emily? Yeah. Marcus had to lean against the wall. It was the voice of the daughter he never knew. Hi, my daughter. You're my father. I am. There was a pause, and Marcus could hear Emily's shaky breathing. Why did you never come to meet me? The question Marcus feared most. How to explain to a child that he never knew she existed? Emily, I didn't know you existed until yesterday. Liar. His daughter's categorical response surprised him. Emily, I know it's hard to believe, but it's the truth. Your mother never told me she was pregnant. Why didn't she tell you? Marcus looked out the window toward the woods where the treehouse was. That you'll have to ask her. But Emily, can I tell you something? Since I found out you existed yesterday, I can't think of anything else. I couldn't even sleep. I wanted so much to meet you. Do you live on a ranch? The change of subject was abrupt, typical of a teenager. I do. It's my grandfather's ranch where I grew up. Is it true there's a treehouse there? It's true. In fact, that's how I found out about you. I found the treehouse yesterday and found your things inside. I loved that house, Emily said, and Marcus could feel the nostalgia in her voice. Why did you leave there? Emily was silent for a while. My mum said it was time to have a normal life. You didn't want to leave? No, I liked being near you, even without knowing you. I always saw you working on the ranch in the morning. Marcus's heart broke. Emily had spent years watching him from afar. Emily, would you like to meet me in person? I'm scared. Scared of what? Scared you won't like me. My mom says I'm difficult. Emily, you're my daughter. No matter how you are, I already love you. How can you love me if you've never seen me? The philosophical question from a questioning teenager caught Marcus by surprise. Because you're a part of me. Because for the last 14 years, even without knowing, I always felt something was missing in my life. Now I know what it was. Are you married? No. I was married. But my wife left me 5 years ago. Why did she leave you? Marcus hesitated. How to explain to a teenager about the problems of a marriage? Because we couldn't have children, and that caused a lot of problems between us. But you already had a daughter. Me. But I didn't know, remember? Oh, that's right. Marcus could imagine Emily processing all this information. Emily, can I ask you a question? Sure. Would you like me to come to New York to meet you? The silence stretched on so long that Marcus thought the call had dropped. Emily? I'm here. Yes, I think I'd like that. Marcus felt a wave of relief and joy. When? I don't know. Whenever you want, I guess. How about this weekend? Okay. Emily, can I speak with your mother again? Okay, Mom, phone. Marcus heard footsteps and then Sarah's voice. Marcus. Sarah, she agreed to meet me. I heard. Marcus, come on Saturday. I'll give you the exact address and we'll arrange to meet in a public place first. Of course. Sarah, thank you for giving me this chance. Don't thank me yet. Let's see how things go. Marcus spent the following days in a mix of anxiety and expectation. He talked to Mr. George about taking care of the ranch, packed his best clothes, and on Friday drove to New York. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. The 5-hour trip seemed to last an eternity. Marcus didn't know New York well and got lost several times before finding the hotel he had booked in Greenwich Village. The traffic, the noise, and the number of people were oppressive for someone used to the tranquility of the ranch. On Saturday morning, Marcus woke up with butterflies in his stomach. He had arranged to meet Sarah and Emily at a mall at 2 in the afternoon. He spent the whole morning trying to keep busy, but couldn't stop thinking about the meeting. At 2 o'clock sharp, Marcus was at the agreed location, the mall's food court. Sarah had said they would be sitting at a table near the burger joint and that she would be wearing a red blouse. Marcus saw them before being seen. Sarah looked more mature but still pretty, with the same expressive eyes he remembered. Beside her was a teenager with curly brown hair, exactly like in the pictures, but taller than he had imagined. Emily was wearing jeans and a band t-shirt and had a slightly defensive posture. Marcus walked slowly toward the table, feeling his legs tremble. As he approached, Sarah looked at him and smiled nervously. Marcus? Sarah. They greeted each other with a quick, awkward hug, and then Marcus looked at Emily, who was watching him with curiosity and apprehension. Hi, Emily. Hi. Marcus sat in the chair Sarah indicated across from Emily, and for a few seconds everyone was silent, not quite knowing what to say. You're taller than I imagined, Emily finally commented. And you're prettier than I imagined, Marcus replied. Emily blushed slightly and looked away. Emily, how about you and Marcus talk a little while I go buy some sodas, Sarah suggested. Emily looked at her mother with panic. Mom, don't leave. I'm not leaving, I'm just going over to the counter. You can see each other all the time. Sarah stepped away, leaving father and daughter alone for the first time. Are you nervous? Emily asked. Very. And you? Me too. Marcus smiled. It's weird, huh? Meeting after so many years. Yeah, but I always knew this day would come. How so? I always knew that one day you would find out about me. My mum said you were a very observant man and that sooner or later you'd find our home. Your mum was right. Emily, can I ask you a question? Sure. How do you feel about me not being part of your life until now? Emily thought carefully before answering. It's complicated. Sometimes I was angry at you for not showing up. Other times I was angry at my mum for not letting you know about me. And sometimes I thought maybe you did know and didn't want to meet me. Emily's honesty was touching and painful. Emily, I need you to believe one thing. If I had known about you, I would have been part of your life from day one. I may have other flaws as a father, but abandonment wouldn't be one of them. How can I be sure of that? Because I'm here now. Because when I found out about you, I changed my whole life to be here. Emily nodded thoughtfully. Do you like being a rancher? I do. It's the only life I know. Do you have other children? No. You are my only daughter. Did you want to have children? I always did. I tried with my ex-wife, but we couldn't. Why couldn't you? Marcus hesitated. It was a very personal and technical question to ask a teenager. Medical problems. Oh. Sarah returned with the sodas and sat down again. How's the conversation going? Good, Emily replied. Dad, can I call you Dad? The unexpected question moved Marcus. Yes, of course. Dad, can you tell me about the ranch? About what it's like to live there? Marcus spent the next hour telling her about life on the ranch, about the animals, the routine, the seasons. Emily asked many questions and seemed genuinely interested. Emily really likes nature, Sarah explained. She always preferred being outdoors to staying home watching television. She takes after me then, Marcus said, smiling. Dad, can you teach me how to take care of animals? I can. Would you like to visit the ranch? Emily looked at Sarah. Can I, Mom? Sarah hesitated. Emily, let's talk about that later. Why not now? Because it's an important decision that needs to be thought about carefully. Marcus sensed there was tension between mother and daughter on the subject. Sarah, can I talk to you for a minute? Marcus asked. Of course. They stepped away from the table, leaving Emily watching people pass by. Sarah, what's the problem with Emily visiting the ranch? Marcus, you don't understand. If Emily goes to the ranch, she won't want to come back to New York. She hates the city, hates the small apartment, hates the new school. The only thing keeping her here is my job. What if she didn't come back? What do you mean? What if Emily wanted to stay at the ranch with me? Sarah looked at him as if he had gone crazy. Marcus, you barely know your daughter. How can you talk about her living with you? Because it's what she wants, isn't it? You can see it in her eyes. Marcus, Emily is a rebellious teenager going through a difficult phase. Of course she wants to run away from responsibilities and live on a ranch playing with animals. But what about school? What about her future? There are schools in the ranch area, and she can have a future there too. Marcus, stop. You're being irresponsible. You barely know Emily, and you already want to change her whole life. And you're being possessive. Emily isn't just your daughter, Sarah. She's mine too. The argument was getting heated, and they noticed Emily was watching them with concern. Let's go back to the table, Sarah said. We'll talk about this later. When they returned, Emily looked directly at her father. Were you fighting because of me? We weren't fighting, Sarah lied. We were just talking. Mum, I'm not a child. I saw you were arguing. Marcus decided to be honest. Emily, I asked your mother if you could visit the ranch, and she thinks it might not be a good idea. Why not? Sarah sighed. Because I'm afraid you'll like it so much you won't want to come back to New York. And what would be the problem with that? Emily, your life is here now. Your school, my job. But I hate it here, Mom. You know I hate it. Emily, you just need to adjust. I don't want to adjust. I want to go back home. Emily, that treehouse isn't our real home. Yes, it was. It was the only real home we ever had. The argument was drawing attention from people around them, and Sarah became embarrassed. Emily, let's go home and talk about this. I don't want to go to that horrible apartment. Marcus saw the situation was getting out of control and stepped in. Emily, how about if you came to spend a weekend at the ranch, just to see it? No pressure to decide anything. Can I? Marcus, Sarah scolded him. Sarah, it's just a weekend. You can come too. I can't leave New York right now. I'm in a probationary period at my job. Then Emily can come just with me. She's my daughter too. The tension between Sarah and Marcus was palpable, and Emily was becoming distressed. Stop fighting, she shouted. Stop! The people around looked, and Emily ran out of the food court. Marcus stood to follow her, but Sarah stopped him. Let her go. She needs to calm down. This always happens when she gets upset. This always happens. The anxiety attacks I mentioned on the phone, any conflict situation triggers them. Marcus felt guilty. He had known his daughter for 2 hours and had already caused an episode. Sarah, I'm sorry. I didn't want to cause trouble. Marcus, you need to understand that Emily is a girl who is emotionally fragile. She doesn't handle conflict well, especially between people she loves. She loves me? Marcus, she's dreamed of you her whole life. Of course she loves you, but that doesn't mean she's ready for all these changes. They waited 10 minutes until Emily returned. She had calmed down, but her eyes were red from crying. Sorry, she said, sitting down again. You don't need to apologize, Marcus replied. We're the ones who need to apologize for arguing in front of you. Will you come to an agreement about the ranch? Marcus looked at Sarah. Emily, Sarah said, how about if you spent a weekend at the ranch next month? That would give me time to sort things out at work, and you'd have time to adjust better here first. Why not next weekend? Because I need time to get used to the idea of you going alone with your father. Marcus understood Sarah was trying to make concessions and decided not to push. Emily, a month goes by fast, and in the meantime, we can get to know each other better by phone. Okay, Emily agreed, clearly disappointed. The rest of the meeting was calmer. They talked about less controversial subjects, and Marcus told family stories, showing photos he had brought of his grandfather, who would be Emily's great-grandfather. When it was time to say goodbye, Emily hugged Marcus for the first time. It was a long, tight hug, as if she were trying to hold on to the feeling forever. Dad, will you call me? I'll call every day if you want. I want. Marcus returned to the ranch on Sunday, but his head remained in New York. As promised, he called Emily every day, and they developed a routine of conversations that lasted for hours. Emily talked about school, about the difficulties of making friends in a new city, about how she missed the treehouse. Marcus shared details of daily life on the ranch, described the animals, talked about the work on the land. Dad, what was my mom like when she was young? Emily asked during one of these conversations. Your mother is beautiful, smart, determined, a little stubborn. Am I like her? In some ways, yes. You inherited her intelligence and determination, but in other ways you take after me. Like what? The love for nature, for example, and the tendency to be stubborn when you want something. Emily laughed. My mum says I'm impossible when I want something. That trait you definitely got from me. The daily conversations were creating a bond between father and daughter that grew stronger each day. Marcus found himself looking forward to the times for the phone calls and began restructuring his routine around them. 1 week before the scheduled weekend for Emily's visit, Sarah called Marcus. Marcus, we need to talk. Did something happen? Emily is obsessed with the idea of going to the ranch. She barely talks about anything else. Is that bad? It's concerning. She's idealizing life on the ranch as if it were the solution to all her problems. Sarah, what if it is? Marcus, don't be naive. A ranch isn't therapy. But maybe it's exactly what she needs. Space, freedom, contact with nature. And isolation, lack of opportunities, a limited future. Sarah, why are you so resistant to the idea of Emily spending time with me? There was a long pause. Because I'm afraid of losing her. Sarah's honesty touched Marcus. Sarah, you're not going to lose Emily. She loves you, but she needs to know all the parts of who she is, including the part that comes from me. Marcus, what if she decides she wants to live with you? What if she does? Would that be so terrible? For me, yes. Marcus understood that Sarah's fear was real and deep. She had raised Emily alone for 14 years, and now feared her daughter would trade her for her father. Sarah, how about a compromise? Emily can spend school vacations at the ranch but continues living with you during the school year. You would do that? Give up having your daughter live with you? If it's best for her, yes. Marcus, you don't even really know Emily yet. How do you know what's best for her? You're right. So how about we let her decide? After she sees the ranch, after she spends some time with both of us, she can choose how she wants to organize her life. She's too young to make that kind of decision. Sarah, she's too smart not to be part of the decisions about her own life. Sarah sighed. All right, Marcus, let's let things happen naturally. But promise me one thing. What? If Emily shows any sign that she feels forced to choose between us, you'll take a step back. I promise. The weekend of the visit finally arrived. Marcus drove to New York on Friday and picked up Emily at the apartment. It was the first time he had seen where they lived. The apartment was small but tidy. Sarah had done her best to make it cozy, but it was obvious Emily wasn't happy there. She had packed a large suitcase for just 2 days, as if she were moving. Emily, you won't need that many clothes, Sarah said. You never know, Emily replied. Marcus sensed the tension between mother and daughter and tried to ease it. Sarah, do you want to come with us? I can wait until you're off work. No, thank you. You two need to have this time together. The goodbye was difficult, Sarah hugged Emily for a long time, whispering something in her ear that Marcus couldn't hear. During the drive to the ranch, Emily was visibly anxious and excited. "Dad, what are the horses like?" "We have 3. A mare named Star, a horse named Thunder, and a filly named Moon." "Can I ride them?" "You can, but first you'll have to learn how to take care of them." "Will you teach me?" "I'll teach you everything I know." When they arrived at the ranch, it was late afternoon, and the golden sunlight created a magical atmosphere. Emily got out of the car and stood still, observing everything around her. "It's even more beautiful than I imagined," she said. Marcus showed her the main house, the stables, the vegetable garden, the pastures. Emily asked questions about everything and showed genuine interest in every detail. "Dad, can I see the treehouse?" "Of course." They walked to the woods, and Marcus pointed to the structure among the branches. "There it is." Emily was moved to see her old home. "Can I go up?" "You can, but be careful on the ladder." Emily climbed up quickly as if she were returning home. Marcus followed her more slowly. Inside the little house, Emily looked around nostalgically. "Did you change anything?" "No. It's exactly as you left it." Emily picked up some of her old drawings that were still stuck to the wall. "I was so little when I made these, but you already drew very well." They spent an hour in the treehouse, with Emily showing Marcus every corner, every object, telling stories from when she lived there. "Dad, why did you never notice the house before?" "Because it's very well hidden, and because I never had a reason to look up when I passed by here. My mother chose this spot exactly for that. She said you would only discover it when the time was right." When they climbed down from the tree, it was getting dark, and Marcus prepared dinner with Emily's help. She was surprisingly good in the kitchen for a teenager. "My mother taught me to cook early," Emily explained. "She worked a lot, and I needed to manage on my own sometimes." After dinner, they sat on the porch, watching the stars. The difference between the ranch sky and the New York sky was dramatic. "I could never see so many stars in the city," Emily commented. "Here you can see the Milky Way." "Is that the white band over there?" "That's the one." They were quiet for a while, just watching the sky. "Dad, can I ask you a personal question?" "You can." "Why didn't your marriage work out?" Marcus thought carefully about his answer. "Many reasons, but mainly because Elizabeth and I wanted different things from life." "What did she want?" "She wanted to live in the city, have a busy social life, travel a lot. And when we couldn't have children, she lost interest in building a family." "And you wanted to have children?" "Very much. It was my biggest dream. And now you have a daughter. And now I have you." Emily smiled. "Dad, do you still want to have more children?" The question took Marcus by surprise. "I don't know, I never thought about it. Why are you asking?" "Just curious. You could get married again and have other children." "Emily, no matter what happens in the future, you will always be my most important daughter." "How can you be sure?" "Because you are my first daughter, because discovering you exist changed my whole life." The next morning, Marcus woke up early to tend to the animals and found Emily already up, sitting on the porch watching the sunrise. "Do you always wake up early?" he asked. "Yes, I like to see the sun rise." "Want to come with me to tend to the animals?" "I do." Marcus taught Emily how to feed the horses, the chickens, the pigs. She showed a natural aptitude for handling animals and wasn't afraid to get dirty. "You have a knack for this," Marcus commented. "I like animals. I always wanted a dog, but you can't have one in the apartment. Here you can have as many dogs as you want." "Really? Really?" After lunch, Marcus taught Emily how to ride a horse. She was nervous at first, but soon got the hang of it. "Dad, this is amazing." "You're doing really well for a beginner." They spent the afternoon riding through the pastures, with Marcus showing the boundaries of the property and telling family stories. "Dad, what was your grandfather like?" "He was a wise and hard-working man. He's the one who taught me everything about the ranch." "Would he be happy to know he has a great-granddaughter?" "He'd be very happy. He always said the ranch needed children to stay alive." On Sunday morning, Emily was visibly sad because she would have to return to New York. Dad, can I come back next weekend? If your mother allows it, of course. And during vacation, can I spend vacation here? Emily, those are decisions you need to make together with your mother. But do you want me to come? Of course I do. But I also want you to be happy, and I don't know yet what will make you happier. On the trip back to New York, Emily was quiet most of the time, looking out the window. What are you thinking about? Marcus asked. About how different it is there and here. Different how? At the ranch, I feel free. Here I feel trapped. Emily, you're going through an adjustment phase. Maybe with time you'll get used to New York. I don't want to get used to it. I want to go back home. When they arrived at the apartment, Sarah was waiting anxiously. How was it? She asked. It was perfect, Emily replied, hugging her mother. Dad taught me how to ride a horse and take care of the animals. Sarah looked at Marcus. And how did you find the experience? Emily has a natural talent for rural life, and she clearly feels at home there. Marcus, can I talk to you for a minute? They stepped away to the kitchen while Emily unpacked her things. How did she really react to the ranch? Sarah, she loved it, more than I expected. And now? Now she wants to come back, and I don't know if I should encourage her or discourage her. Marcus, be honest with me. Do you think it would be better for Emily to live on the ranch? Marcus thought carefully before answering. Sarah, I think it would be better for her to have both options. Spend part of the time at the ranch, part of the time with you. She needs both worlds. But what if she chooses only one of the worlds? Then we'll have to accept her choice. Sarah sighed. Marcus, I have a proposal. What? How about if I take some vacation and go with Emily to the ranch? That way I can get to know what life is like there better and make a more informed decision about the future. The proposal surprised Marcus. Sarah, you would do that? For Emily, I would do anything. When? Next month. I managed to get about 2 weeks of vacation. Marcus felt a mix of joy and nervousness. Having Sarah at the ranch for 2 weeks would be complicated. Marcus, there's something else. What? If I go to the ranch and like the life there, if Emily continues to prefer it, I would be willing to consider moving too. Marcus was shocked. Sarah, you would change your whole life for Emily? Marcus, I've already changed my whole life for Emily several times. This would just be one more. But what about your job, your life here? My job is as a nurse. I can work anywhere. And what life do I have here? Work, apartment, loneliness. It's not much different from what you had before discovering Emily. The conversation was taking turns Marcus hadn't anticipated. The possibility of having both Sarah and Emily living on the ranch created scenarios he didn't know how to process. Sarah, are you sure about this? No, but I'm willing to try. When they returned to the living room, Emily was waiting with a hopeful expression. Did you reach any decision? Emily, Sarah said, how about if I go with you to the ranch on the next vacation? That way I can get to know what life is like there better. Emily screamed with joy and hugged her mother. Really, Mom, you're going to see the ranch? I am. But Emily, that doesn't mean we're moving. It's just to visit. I know, but at least you'll understand why I like it there so much. Marcus returned to the ranch with his head full of plans and worries. What would it be like having Sarah there for 2 weeks? What would it be like for Emily to be with both parents together for the first time? And what would it be like for him to deal with old feelings he still didn't know existed? The following weeks passed quickly, with daily calls to Emily and occasional conversations with Sarah to plan the trip. Marcus found himself tidying the house, renovating the guest room, and even buying new clothes. Mr. Marcus is very excited about the visit, commented Mr. George, the foreman. It's the first time my daughter will stay here for a longer period. And the girl's mother is coming too, right? That too. Marcus knew Mr. George's It meant he had an opinion but wasn't going to express it directly. Just say what you're thinking, George. It's none of my business, boss. You can say it. It's just, well, you've been a bit different since you met the girl. Different how? Happier. More alive, I guess. It's been a long time since I've seen you like this. Marcus knew George was right. Discovering he had a daughter had changed something fundamental inside him. And you think that might have to do with the girl's mother too? George's direct question caught Marcus off guard. George, Sarah, and I are just Emily's parents, nothing more. If you say so. But George's observation planted a seed of doubt in Marcus's mind. Were his feelings for Sarah really only related to Emily, or was there something more? Finally, the day of the trip arrived. Marcus picked up Sarah and Emily in New York, and during the drive, watched the two of them interacting. Sarah was clearly nervous about seeing the ranch, while Emily was thrilled to be going back. "Mum, you're going to love the horses," Emily was saying. "Honey, you know I'm afraid of horses. Dad will teach you. He's a very good teacher." Marcus noticed that Emily was acting as a mediator between them, trying to build bridges. When they arrived at the ranch, Marcus carefully watched Sarah's reaction. She got out of the car slowly, looking around with an expression he couldn't decipher. "It really is beautiful," she admitted. "Much bigger than I imagined," she added. "Mom, come see my treehouse." Emily pulled Sarah toward the woods, and Marcus followed them. Seeing Sarah climbing the wooden ladder toward the house where she had raised their daughter was both moving and strange. Inside the little house, Sarah was silent for a long time, touching the objects, looking at Emily's drawings on the walls. "Is this where you lived?" Marcus asked unnecessarily. "For 7 years," Sarah replied. "Emily had her happiest childhood years here." "Why did you leave?" Sarah looked at Emily, who was busy showing her old drawings. "Because she was asking questions I didn't know how to answer," Sarah whispered. "What kind of questions?" "About why she couldn't meet her father, about why we had to live in hiding, about why we couldn't have a real family." Marcus understood. Emily had reached an age where hiding the truth became impossible. And now? Now she can have the answers she deserves. That night, after Emily went to sleep, Marcus and Sarah sat on the porch to talk. "How are you feeling here?" Marcus asked. "It's strange, familiar and strange at the same time." "Why familiar?" "Because I watched this ranch for years from the treehouse. I know your routine, your way of caring for the animals, the times you do each thing." Marcus was unsettled by the revelation. "You were watching me. Not intentionally, but from the treehouse you can see almost the entire property. It was impossible not to see you." "And what was that like for you?" Sarah hesitated before answering. "Painful. Especially when you got married and I saw you trying to build a family with Elizabeth. I knew Emily should have been there, playing in the backyard, being your real daughter." "Sarah, why did you never change your mind? Why did you never tell me about Emily?" "Because the more time passed, the harder it became. How would I explain that I hid your daughter for years? How would I justify taking from you her first steps, her first words, her first days of school?" Marcus understood Sarah's dilemma. With each passing year, revealing the truth became more complicated. "Sarah, can I ask you a personal question?" "Go ahead. Do you still have feelings for me?" The question hung in the air for a long time. "Marcus, what kind of question is that?" "An honest one." "Why do you want to know?" "Because I need to understand if there's a chance for us to build something together, for Emily's sake. If there isn't, we need to make that clear to her." Sarah stood up and walked to the edge of the porch. "Marcus, I loved you for many years. Even after you got married, even when I was raising our daughter alone, a part of me still loved you. And now? Now I don't know. It's been so many years, so much has happened. I don't know if I'm still the same person I was at 20. I don't know if I'm the same either," Marcus admitted. "But I know having you two here makes this house feel alive in a way it never did before." "Marcus, don't complicate things. We're trying to figure out what's best for Emily. And what if what's best for Emily is for us to be a real family? Families aren't built just because they're convenient for the children." "It wouldn't be convenient. It would be what?" Marcus didn't know how to finish the sentence. What would it be exactly? Love? Convenience? A second chance? "It would be an opportunity to fix the mistakes of the past," he finally said. "Marcus, some mistakes can't be fixed. They can only be accepted and moved on from." The next morning, Marcus woke to noise coming from the kitchen. He found Sarah and Emily making breakfast together. "Good morning, sleepyhead," Emily said cheerfully. "Good morning. Have you two been up long?" "Your daughter woke up at 5 in the morning wanting to show me the sunrise," Sarah complained, but she was smiling. "Was it worth it?" "I admit it was beautiful." During breakfast, Emily was excited to show her mother everything on the ranch. "Mom, are you going to meet the horses today?" "If your father promises I won't fall off." "I promise I'll take good care of both of you," Marcus said. The riding lesson was fun and disastrous at the same time. Sarah was visibly nervous but tried hard for Emily's sake. Marcus had to hold the horse while Sarah mounted, and the necessary physical contact to help her created some awkward moments. "Relax, you're too tense," Marcus said, his hands on Sarah's shoulders to calm her. "Easy for you to say," Sarah replied, but Marcus noticed she didn't pull away from his touch. Emily watched the two of them with evident interest. "You two work well together," she commented later. "What do you mean?" Sarah asked. "You understand each other without needing to say much, like real couples do." The observation left both Marcus and Sarah speechless. The following days established a comfortable routine. Marcus tended to the ranch chores in the morning, with Emily helping him. Sarah explored the property, sometimes alone, sometimes with them. The afternoons were dedicated to family activities, riding, fishing in the pond, card games. Marcus noticed Sarah was adapting to life on the ranch better than he had imagined. She didn't complain about the physical work, helped with the animals, and seemed genuinely relaxed. "Are you enjoying it here?" he asked one afternoon as they sat by the pond while Emily swam. "More than I expected," Sarah admitted. "What surprised you the most?" "The silence. In New York there's always noise. Here the silence is peaceful." "And how are you feeling about staying here longer?" Sarah didn't answer immediately, watching Emily play in the water. "Marcus, can I tell you something?" "Of course." "Since we arrived here, Emily hasn't had a single anxiety attack. In New York, she had at least one a week. It could be a coincidence. It could. But it could also be that she's genuinely happy here." "And does that worry you?" "It leaves me torn. As a mother, I want to see my daughter happy. But as a person, I'm afraid of such drastic changes." "What kind of changes?" Sarah looked directly at Marcus. "Marcus, if I decide it's better for Emily to live here, that means I would have to stay too. And staying here means living with you daily, raising Emily together, being a family. And that scares you?" "It terrifies me." "Why?" "Because I don't know if we're compatible as adults. We knew each other as teenagers, we had a daughter together by accident, but we've never tested if we work as life partners." Marcus understood Sarah's concern. They were considering huge changes based on old feelings and a shared daughter. "Sarah, what if we tested it? How?" "You could get a transfer to the hospital in the nearest town. You could rent a house in town and come to the ranch on weekends. Emily can study at the local school. We can try this life for a while before making permanent decisions." The proposal made sense to Sarah. It would be a gradual transition. "Exactly. No pressure, no definitive commitments." "And if it doesn't work?" "Then you go back to New York, knowing we tried." "And if it does work?" Marcus smiled. "Then we build the family Emily has always wanted." That night, Sarah talked seriously with Emily about the possibilities. "Sweetie, how would you feel if we moved closer to the ranch?" "Really, Mom? We could do that?" "I'm considering it, but it would mean changing schools again, making new friends, starting over. But I'd be near my dad." "Yes, you would." "And would you be happy here?" Emily's simple question was the most important one of all. "I don't know, sweetie. Oh, but I'm willing to try to find out." Emily hugged her mother tightly. "Mom, thank you for trying." "Emily, this decision isn't just mine. It's ours. And your father's too. We all need to agree." "Dad already agrees. He wants us to live here." "How do you know?" "You can see it in his eyes. He's happy when we're here." On the last night of the visit, Marcus, Sarah, and Emily sat on the porch to make a final decision. "So," Marcus said, "what's the verdict?" Sarah took a deep breath. "Emily and I will go back to New York on Monday. I'll request a transfer to the hospital here and look for a house in town. If I can manage both, we'll move at the end of the school year." Marcus felt a wave of joy and relief. "And I'll enroll in the school here for next year," Emily added. "Are you sure this is what you both want?" Marcus asked. "I'm sure I want to try," Sarah answered. "And I'm sure I want to stay here," Emily said. "Then it's decided." They sat in silence for a while, processing the magnitude of the decision they had just made. "Marcus," Sarah said finally, "it needs to be clear that we're doing this for Emily, not for us. I understand. If we try to build something together and it doesn't work out, we need to have the maturity to continue being co-parents, even if we're not life partners." "I agree. And Emily needs to know she shouldn't have romantic expectations about the two of us. We're adults making practical decisions about her well-being." Emily laughed. "Mom, I'm not a child. I know you're not dating. But I also know you like each other." "Emily, Mom, you don't have to pretend. I can see how you look at each other when you think I'm not watching." Marcus and Sarah exchanged an embarrassed glance. "Okay," Sarah said. "Maybe we're not as subtle as we think." "Not subtle at all," Emily confirmed, smiling. "But that doesn't change what I said," Sarah continued. "Our priority is building a functional family. If on top of that we build a relationship, great. If not, that's fine too." "I fully agree," Marcus said. "Me too," Emily added. "I just want to have you both in my life. The rest we'll figure out later." The next 2 weeks were intense for Marcus. Sarah got the transfer quicker than they expected, and they found a small but comfortable house in town, 15 minutes from the ranch. Emily was thrilled about the move. She insisted on being part of choosing the house and the new school. "Dad, can I have my own horse?" she asked during one of the house viewings. "You can, but you'll have to take care of it by yourself." "I will." "It's a big responsibility, Emily." "Dad, I took care of my mum for years. I know what responsibility is." Emily's remark reminded Marcus that she had grown up taking on responsibilities beyond her years. The move happened in December, during the school holidays. Marcus helped Sarah and Emily settle into the new house and then found himself wondering what the new dynamic would be like. The answer came naturally. Emily spent mornings at the ranch with Marcus, learning about farming and taking care of the animals. Afternoons were dedicated to studying with Sarah, who helped her prepare for the new school. Evenings were split between the house in town and dinners at the ranch. Marcus was surprised by how easily they adapted to the routine. There were awkward moments and necessary adjustments, but the overall feeling was that they were building something solid. One night, during a dinner at the ranch, Emily asked a question that surprised both parents. "Have you guys ever thought about having other kids?" Sarah almost choked on her food. "Emily!" "What? It's a legitimate question. You're still young." Marcus laughed. "Emily, we're still learning to be a family of 3. Let's take it slow. But would you like to?" "Emily," Sarah interjected, "those are very personal and complex decisions." "I know, but I would like to have a little brother." Emily's honesty was always surprising. "Why would you like that?" Marcus asked. "Because I grew up alone and I know what it's like to be an only child. It would be nice to have someone to share things with." "Emily," Sarah said carefully, "having siblings also means sharing your parents' attention." "I know, but you have so much love to give. It would be a waste not to share it." That night, after Emily went to sleep, she had earned the right to sleep at the ranch a few nights a week. Marcus and Sarah kept talking about her comment. "She's very mature for her age," Marcus observed. "Sometimes too mature," Sarah agreed. "Sarah, can I ask you something without you getting mad?" "Go ahead." "Would you like to have other children?" Sarah took a while to answer. "For a long time, no. Raising Emily alone was so hard I couldn't imagine having other kids. And now? Now, I don't know. The idea doesn't scare me like it used to." "Why not?" "Because now I know I wouldn't be alone." The conversation was delicate but necessary. "Marcus, what about you? Would you like to have other children?" "I always did. And now that I know how good it feels to be a father, I'd like it even more." even having missed the first years of Emily's life. Maybe exactly because I missed the first years of Emily's life. They fell silent, each processing the implications of the conversation. Marcus, we're too responsible to have children for the wrong reasons. What would the wrong reasons be? Trying to correct past mistakes, solidifying a relationship that doesn't exist yet, giving Emily a sibling. And what would be the right reasons? Love, a genuine desire to build a family, certainty that we can provide a stable home. You don't think we have those things? Sarah looked directly at Marcus. Marcus, we're practically strangers who share a daughter. We're learning to live together, to respect each other, to collaborate. But we're not dating. We're not a couple. And would you like us to be? The direct question left Sarah speechless for a moment. I don't know. It's very complicated. Why complicated? Because if we try to be a couple and it doesn't work, it will affect Emily. Because I don't want her to grow up in a house full of tension like I did. Because I'm afraid of ruining what we're managing to build. Marcus understood Sarah's fears, but he also felt they needed to be honest about the feelings they were developing. Sarah, can I be completely honest with you? You can. I have feelings for you. I don't know if they're old feelings that came back or new feelings based on the woman you are today. But they exist. Sarah took a deep breath. Marcus, let me finish. I know it's complicated. I know there are risks. But I also know that when I wake up in the morning and know I'm going to see you two, I feel happier than I have in years. Marcus, don't make this harder than it already is. I'm not trying to make it hard. I'm trying to be honest. And I appreciate the honesty. But you need to understand that I can't base important decisions on feelings. I need to think of Emily, her future, the stability she needs. And if I could give you that stability? How? Marcus hesitated, knowing his next word would change everything. By marrying you. The silence that followed was long and tense. Marcus, have you lost your mind? Maybe. But think about it. We get along well. We share responsibilities with Emily. You're adapting to life here. Emily is happy. Marcus, marriage isn't a business partnership. I know, but many solid marriages started with practical foundations and developed love over time, and many others ended in tragedy. Marcus knew he was taking a risk, but he felt he needed to open up completely. Sarah, I'm not proposing a marriage of convenience. I'm saying I love you. The words came out before he could censor himself. Sarah looked visibly shocked. Marcus, I know it's crazy. I know we barely know each other as adults. But Sarah, when I look at you taking care of Emily, when I see you adapting to life here, when we talk on the porch after she's asleep, I fall in love a little more each day. Sarah stood up and walked to the window, her back to Marcus. Marcus, you can't do this to me. Do what? Declare your love like this out of nowhere. Talk about marriage when we're still figuring out how to be a family. Sarah, look at me. She turned slowly. What do you feel for me? Be honest. Sarah hesitated for a long time before answering. I feel confusion, attraction, fear, hope, all mixed together. Attraction? Marcus, you were always handsome. And now, more mature, taking care of Emily with so much affection. It's hard not to feel attracted. And the fear of ruining everything, fear of Emily getting hurt if things don't work out between us, afraid of falling in love and being abandoned again. I won't abandon you. How can you be sure? Because I've already lost you once, and losing both of you now would be impossible to bear. Sarah sat back down next to Marcus. Marcus, even if I felt the same way about you, even if we wanted to try, it wouldn't be prudent for us to get married now. Why? Because Emily needs time to adjust to having both parents present. Because we need time to get to know each other as adults. Because marriage is too serious a commitment to be based on confused feelings. Marcus knew Sarah was being rational, but the rejection still stung. So what are you proposing? That we continue as we are, building a family, getting to know each other, seeing how things develop naturally. And if they develop well, Then perhaps, in the future, we could consider taking other steps. What kind of steps? Sarah smiled for the first time in the conversation. Marcus, you're so anxious. Let's take it slow. All right, but Sarah, can I at least know if you would consider the possibility of a future together? You can. And can I know if you also have feelings for me? Sarah looked into his eyes. Marcus, if I didn't have feelings for you, I wouldn't have changed my entire life to be here. The revelation left Marcus euphoric and relieved. So there's hope? There are possibilities, but Marcus, we need to be very careful. Emily notices everything. If she detects tension between us, it could affect her. I understand, so we keep things as they are for now. For now. The following months passed smoothly. Emily adjusted well to her new school and made friends quickly. Sarah settled into her new job and integrated into the local community. Marcus learned to balance his attention between the ranch and the family. The dynamic between Marcus and Sarah evolved naturally. They developed a solid partnership in raising Emily, and a friendship that gradually incorporated elements of intimacy. In March, on Emily's 15th birthday, they threw a party at the ranch with her new friends, Sarah's co-workers, and Marcus's neighbors. It was the first time they appeared publicly as a family. You look like a real couple, commented Mrs. Dorothy, the closest neighbor. We are a family, Sarah replied diplomatically. Ah, but you can see there's more to it than that, insisted Mrs. Dorothy. Emily, who had overheard the conversation, chimed in. Mrs. Dorothy, my parents are complicated. They like each other, but keep pretending they don't. Emily, Sarah and Marcus said in unison. It's true. You think I don't see how you look at each other. Emily's observation caused laughter among the guests, but also embarrassment for her parents. Later, when the guests had left and Emily was sorting through her gifts, Marcus and Sarah sat on the porch to talk. Our daughter is very observant, Marcus remarked, and very direct, Sarah added. Sarah, is she right? Is it that obvious? I think so. To her, at least. And how do you feel about that? Embarrassed, but also relieved in a way. Why relieved? Because I'm tired of pretending I don't have feelings for you. Sarah's admission surprised Marcus. You've been pretending? Every day. When you help me in the kitchen and we stand too close. When you teach Emily something and I see what kind of father you are. When we talk late and I have to control myself not to... Not to what? Not to kiss you. The confession left Marcus breathless. Sarah? Marcus, I know I said we should take it slow. But maybe too slow isn't good either. What are you suggesting? That we stop behaving like polite strangers and start behaving like two people who are attracted to each other and have a daughter together. That means we can have dinner together sometimes without Emily around, that we can talk about our feelings without fear, that we can explore this attraction between us. Marcus moved closer to Sarah on the porch sofa. Are you sure about this? I am. But Marcus, on one condition. What? Emily can't know yet. Not until we're sure it works between us. How are we going to date in secret from our own daughter? By being creative and careful. Marcus smiled. Sarah Mitchell, are you proposing a secret romance? I'm proposing we test our feelings responsibly. And how do we start? In response, Sarah leaned in and kissed Marcus softly. It was a timid, hesitant kiss, but it confirmed that the attraction between them was real and strong. When they parted, both were emotional. I've wanted to do that for a long time, Sarah whispered. Me too. Marcus, we need to be very careful. If Emily suspects... She'll freak out with joy, Marcus laughed. Exactly. And if it doesn't work out between us after that, she'll be devastated. It will work. How can you be so sure? Because I waited 15 years to kiss you again. I'm not going to waste this second chance. The following months were like a second adolescence for Marcus and Sarah. They found moments to be alone, morning walks while Emily slept, lunches in the city when she was at school, phone calls after she went to bed. The secret romance brought a new energy to both of them. Marcus found himself humming at work, and Sarah was noticeably happier and more relaxed. Emily noticed the changes. "Dad, you're different." "Different how?" "More happy, and my mum too. It's good to be close to you two. Is that all?" Marcus pretended to be busy fixing a fence to avoid the question. "Dad, do you think I'm blind?" "What are you talking about, Emily?" "You're dating." Marcus almost dropped his hammer. "Emily." "Dad, relax, I'm not a little kid anymore, and I wanted you two to be together." "How did you find out?" "My mom is wearing perfume. You're shaving every day. You keep looking at each other when you think I'm not watching. And yesterday I saw you kissing in the kitchen." Marcus sighed. They had been discovered. "Emily, can you talk to your mom about this? It's a delicate situation." "Why delicate?" "Because if it doesn't work out between us, we don't want you to get hurt." "Dad, you're adults. If you decide to try to be together, I support you. If it doesn't work out, I support that too. I just don't like you treating me like a child." That night, Marcus told Sarah they had been discovered. "How did she find out?" Sarah asked, mortified. "She saw us kissing yesterday." "Oh no." "Sarah, she said she supports our decision and doesn't want to be treated like a child anymore." "Marcus, she is a child. She's a mature teenager who spent years looking after you when you were working. Maybe we should give her more credit." Sarah sighed. "Do you think we should talk to her openly?" "I do. There's no point in pretending anymore." The next day, the three of them sat at the breakfast table for a frank conversation. "Emily," Sarah began, "about what you saw yesterday." "Mum, you're dating. I saw, everyone knows. Can we stop pretending?" Marcus laughed. "Okay, Emily. Yes, we're trying to date." "Trying?" "It's complicated," Sarah explained. "We're your parents first, a possible couple second." "And how do you feel about that?" Marcus asked. Emily smiled widely. "As if my family was finally real." "Emily," Sarah said carefully, "you need to understand that dating doesn't guarantee marriage. Things might not work out between us." "They might, but they also might work out." "And if they don't?" "Then you'll still be my parents, you just won't be husband and wife. It's not the end of the world." Emily's maturity surprised both parents. "How did you get so wise?" Marcus asked. "By growing up with a mom who had to be both mother and father. I learned that things aren't always perfect, but that doesn't mean they're bad." Sarah was moved by her daughter's answer. "Emily, you're right, but we want you to know that no matter what happens between us, your happiness and safety are our priority." "I know, and I want you to know that your happiness is my priority too." With everything out in the open, the relationship between Marcus and Sarah evolved more naturally. They started having dinner together regularly, going out on dates occasionally, and showing affection in front of Emily. In June, during Emily's winter break, Marcus decided to formalize the relationship. "Sarah, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "How do you feel about us?" "I feel complete, as if I've finally found my place in the world." "I feel the same. Sarah, I want you to know that I love you. I love you as a woman, as the mother of my daughter, as my partner. Marcus, I love you too. And I want to spend the rest of my life with both of you." "Marcus, let me finish. I know I said this before and you thought it was rushed. But now, after months of getting to know you, seeing the person you are, the mother you are, the partner you are, I'm more sure than ever." Marcus knelt beside the chair where Sarah was sitting. "Sarah Mitchell, will you marry me?" Sarah was speechless, her eyes filled with tears. "Marcus, yes, I will." That's when they noticed Emily standing in the kitchen doorway, also crying. "Can I be the maid of honor?" she asked. Marcus and Sarah laughed and called her over for a family hug. "Of course you can be the maid of honor," Sarah said. "Does that mean you're really getting married?" Emily asked. "We want to," Marcus confirmed, "and I'll have a complete family." "You've always had a complete family," Sarah said. "It's just that now it will all be in the same place." The wedding happened in September at the ranch itself, with a simple but moving celebration. Emily was the maid of honor as she requested, and gave a speech that left no one with dry eyes. "For many years," she said, "I dreamed of having a family like other kids, a father, a mother, a home where everyone could be together. Today that dream came true, not because 2 people fell in love, but because 3 people decided that love is worth more than fear." After the ceremony, when the guests had left and Emily was asleep, Marcus and Sarah sat on the porch as husband and wife. "How do you feel, Mrs. Bennet?" Marcus asked. "As if I'm living a fairy tale. And you, Mr. Bennet?" "As if I finally found my place in the world." "Marcus, can I tell you a secret?" "Of course." "When I built the treehouse, I knew you would eventually find it. It was my way of leaving a door open to the future." "Really?" "I left clues along the way, like easy-to-find documents, photos in plain sight. Part of me always hoped this day would come." "Why did you never tell me this before?" "Because I needed to be sure you wanted us for real, not out of obligation or guilt." "And are you sure now?" "Now I am." They sat in silence, watching the stars. "Marcus, what do you think will happen now?" "Now we're going to build the life we've always wanted. Let's raise Emily together, take care of the ranch together, grow old together." "And if we want to have other children?" "Do you want to?" "I do. And you?" "I want to very much." "Then let's wait a little longer for Emily to get used to the new family dynamic, and then we'll talk about expanding the family. Emily is going to be thrilled. She really is." A year later, Marcus and Sarah announced to Emily that she was going to be a big sister. "Really?" she shouted. "I'm going to have a little brother?" "Or a little sister," Sarah corrected. "It doesn't matter. I'll teach him everything about the ranch." The pregnancy went smoothly, with Emily helping with all the preparations. The baby was born in March, a boy they named Daniel. Emily became a devoted big sister, helping care for Daniel and taking pride in teaching him everything she knew about life on the ranch. "Dad," she said one day, "thank you for finding our treehouse." "Why?" "Because that's how our real family began." Marcus looked around, Sarah nursing Daniel on the porch, Emily playing with the horses in the pasture, the house full of life and love. The discovery of the treehouse had truly changed everything. 5 years later, the Bennet family was complete and happy. Emily had graduated high school and decided to study veterinary medicine to help on the ranch. Daniel grew up surrounded by love and freedom. Marcus and Sarah had built a solid marriage based on mutual respect and genuine love. The treehouse was still there, now restored as a special place where the family gathered for important moments. It was where Marcus proposed to Sarah, where they told Emily about Daniel's arrival, where they celebrated every important milestone in their lives. "Sometimes I think," Marcus said to Sarah on a special evening, "what our life would be like if I had never found that house. I think Emily would have found a way to make you find it. She was always determined when she wanted something." "I think you're right." "Marcus, do you have any regrets about how things happened?" "Just one." "What?" "I wish I had found the treehouse 15 years earlier." Sarah smiled. "Maybe we weren't ready 15 years earlier. Maybe everything happened at the right time." "How so?" "If you had found out about Emily when she was a baby, maybe our story would be different. Maybe we wouldn't have had the maturity to build this family we have now." Marcus had never thought of it that way. "Do you think it was better this way?" "I think it was how it was meant to be. Emily grew up strong and independent. You had time to mature and understand what you really wanted from life. I learned to be a strong mother and woman. When we found each other again, we were the right people at the right time. Sarah Bennet, you are a very wise woman. I'm just a woman who learned that true love is worth waiting for." And so, the family that began with an accidental discovery in a treehouse became proof that sometimes the best endings come when we least expect them, but exactly when we need them most. Emily grew up, became a veterinarian, married a local boy, and had children who played in the same treehouse where she grew up. Daniel followed in his father's footsteps, managing the ranch, expanding the business and modernizing operations. Marcus and Sarah grew old together, watching the property prosper and the family grow. On Sunday afternoons, when everyone gathered for family lunch, They would sit on the porch and watch the children playing in the yard, knowing they had built something lasting and true. The treehouse, which had held so many secrets, became the symbol of the Bennett family. A refuge built with love, hidden until it was discovered at the perfect moment, standing the test of time and weather because its foundations were solid. And whenever someone asked how Marcus and Sarah had managed to build such a close-knit family after so much time apart, they would point to the treehouse and say, "It all started when we discovered that true love isn't in a hurry, but it never gives up." Years later, when Marcus was 70 and Sarah was 68, they decided to write the family history to leave as a legacy for their grandchildren. "Where do we begin?" Sarah asked, sitting at the kitchen table with paper and pen. "From the beginning," Marcus replied. Marcus Bennett walked across the ranch property as he had every morning for 20 years, and so they recorded their story, a story of second chances, of love that withstood time, of a family built brick by brick, day after day, with patience and dedication. The last sentence of the account was written by Emily, now an adult and mother of 3. And they discovered that some houses aren't made of wood and nails, but of memories, dreams, and a lot of love. And those houses, when well built, last forever. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out, now continuing. The Bennett family story spread throughout the region, becoming a local legend. Young couples would visit the ranch to see the famous treehouse and hear the love story that was born from an unexpected discovery. Emily, who had become a talented storyteller like her mother, welcomed visitors to the treehouse and told the family story with emotion and pride. "The secret," she always said at the end, "is to never give up on love. It's being ready to recognize it when it appears, even if it's in an unexpected way." Marcus and Sarah spent their final years surrounded by a large and loving family, watching great-grandchildren play in the same places where Emily had grown up. The ranch prospered for generations, always managed with the same love and care that Marcus had learned from his grandfather. When the time came for Marcus and Sarah to depart, they passed away within days of each other, as if they couldn't live without one another. The funeral was held at the ranch itself with hundreds of people who had been touched by their love story. Emily, now a grandmother, gave the farewell speech. "My parents taught us that true love isn't perfect. It's persistent. It isn't easy, it's courageous. It isn't guaranteed, it's built day by day. They showed us that family isn't just blood, it's a choice, and that home isn't a place, it's the people we love." After the funeral, the family decided to keep the treehouse as a memorial to Marcus and Sarah, and as a symbol that miracles can happen when we least expect them. The sign at the ranch entrance, which once read only "Bennett Ranch," was replaced with a new one, "Bennett Ranch, where love finds its way home." And to this day, decades later, couples in love visit the little treehouse, make wishes for eternal happiness, and believe that Marcus and Sarah's love still lives there, guarding and blessing all who believe in the power of true love. The story that began with a lonely rancher finding a hidden house ended up becoming a legend, proof that sometimes the biggest changes in our lives start with the simplest discoveries. And the treehouse is still there, among the branches of the century-old fig tree, guarding secrets of love, witnessing promises of happiness, and reminding all who visit that true love always finds a way home. End of story. Now tell us, what did you think of this story of reunion and family? Did Marcus make the right decisions? Was Sarah wise to protect Emily for so long? Leave your honest opinion in the comments with sincere words. Do you believe love can overcome as many obstacles as it did for this family? We would love to hear your perspective. Thank you so much for joining us in another thrilling story.